Well, welcome, my friends. You've turned the page, and I don't know what book you're opening, but the book that you've encountered is Fishing Without Bait, a lifetime without definitive expectations, where we help people explode into their lives through full impact mindfulness. We're looking for people who are not looking to find themselves, however, to create themselves. And if you have the honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness to try, welcome aboard. Put your canoe in the water and start paddling. And we're going to continue our conversation with the delightful Brian Crawford.
You know, people would try to back out on me on the last minute. I'd be like, "You're really screwing us over," and then they'd feel guilty and come in.
Well, if you had no intention of making the commitment in the first place, too many people say yes too quickly.
Yeah.
And then at the last minute, called you up and say, gee, my grandmother fell out of an airplane and broke her leg. I've got to take her to the hospital, and the only way I can get there is by dog team. Do you know that that's completely ridiculous? So the idea is not to make a commitment unless you can follow through with it.
Yeah, my problem is I make too many commitments, and then I do follow through, but I make too many commitments.
Right. Well, many people, there's been a bazillion books written about time management, seminars, CDs, journals, planners, but there's been very little talk about energy management, Brian. And you only have so much energy, just like Dr. Fauci only has 24 hours in a day.
Mm.
Brian Crawford has only so much energy. And I think it's important that you choose how to use it.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
But I think our audience is beginning to wonder whether this person sleeps or not.
I do now. I didn't before. I used to. I mean, there was one time before the second, I think it was the second year of the Millville Music Festival. I think I averaged about 2 hours of sleep a night for about a month.
How'd that work out for you?
Great. We had a huge success.
How'd that work out for Brian Crawford?
Okay, I guess. I don't know. I don't think I had that many negative effects from it. But I've been sleeping a lot more lately. I was on a medication called Wellbutrin,
yes.
And you're not supposed to drink on Wellbutrin. And I never was a heavy drinker, but I drank a little bit each week. Well, Wellbutrin, I completely cut it off because it can give you a seizure. And then ever since then, I never had the urge to really get back into it. And now I'm on another medication where it's I have one beer and it's I feel like I got hit by a train. So I mostly really don't drink anymore. So I always tell people, I make the joke, I said, I get the right amount of sleep and I don't drink. And I said, in some ways, I never felt, I never felt worse in some ways because it's I don't know, the sleep, it's I feel like I don't get enough done sometimes. I could, you're talking about time management. That's part of my problem. Everyone thought I was really efficient. I wasn't efficient at all. I just never stopped. So there was a ton of time that I wasted. It's just I didn't sleep that much, so I had the ability to knock things out, and I also, and I still do this, I would wait and get things done quickly. I just tend to work better that way with a hard deadline or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't get as much done as I want to. I think part of that's going to pick up as things open back up and I get, energized. I'm already starting to get that way. I started working on a video today and that's got me moving. I'm one of those people, I'm very much in the flow of things. If things are flowing, I'm or if I get excited about a project, then things kind of
How do you feel when people don't share the same type of enthusiasm that you do?
In which way? About
when you're working with a group of people, when you're working with a committee, and they just don't seem to have the energy or the drive that you do?
I'll fire them. I fired somebody before as a volunteer once. It depends on the situation. With PGH Museums, I have a board of directors that are very skilled people, and I depend on their knowledge and expertise. So I don't expect as much hardcore work that I'm doing because I value them for a lot of other things that I can't do. But in other situations, we had somebody who, with the first Relay for Life, for example, we had somebody who was the luminary chair, and he just wasn't doing anything. And eventually I said, like, just be honest with me. Like, I won't get mad. Are you gonna do this or not? Because I need to replace you. And he said, he didn't say anything. He kind of like started side talking this. And I said, you know what? Thank you, but I got to go with somebody else because it's one of the most important parts of the relay for life. You can't just, let it go. So
Well,
yeah,
that's a wise mind choice. But what I'm hearing is that you're not a dictator, just arbitrarily moving people out just on a whim.
oh no. In fact, I like to think that with most things, there's certain issues where I'm like, I want it this way, and that's it. Like certain, like they're very like specific things, like that I feel are like kind of the core of the philosophy of what we're doing and our mission. But like most things, like to go to the Millville Music Festival, for example, a lot of that festival, a lot of the things that happened in that festival and the decisions that were made, I was on the opposite side of those decisions, and I was against the decision. But we ran everything. Even though I was the person who was in charge as the chairman, I always went with whatever the committee felt was best, and I've always operated that way from, except for like I said, very specific things. Like when I was a senior patrol leader, for example, we always did a vote. I always did what the majority wanted. Some people, when they were in that position, if they couldn't go on a camping trip, they wouldn't let the troop do it. I'm like, well, if that's what most people can do and I can't go, that's, it's about the organization. But somebody tried to get the scouts to stop wearing their Class A uniforms in the winter, which is a long tradition. And I said, well, does the basketball team play without their basketball uniforms? Like things like that, I'm more of like a particular, more of a stickler about. So there's certain things where I won't budge, but for most things, I tend to whatever, you bring people on board because of their expertise and because of their knowledge and their passion. And to undermine that, first off, you're losing a lot of different perspectives that can help whatever you're building grow. And secondly, you're disincentivizing them to be involved in the project. Who wants to be involved in something where they can't feel heard and have a say and a voice in it?
So I'm kind of catching on that you're not a periphery fellow. You like to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I just feel the passion coming off from you. It's radiating. And I know that sometimes we have to understand that people aren't as passionate as we are. How do you deal with that? They want to be involved. They're just not quite as passionate.
Oh, well, I mean, you can find different roles for people. Like,
Yeah.
Millville Music Festival, we needed people to run the 50-50 auction at the different bars for the different fundraisers. And, there's smaller roles that people can do. And I just think that's fine. You need those people as well.
Okay. Well, this drive and this ambition obviously has done well for you in your life.
Maybe. I mean, I'm not at all where I want to be professionally. So,
What are your goals? What are your aspirations?
well, I'd like to do something in media. I just look at the financial numbers as far as like what it takes to start at the bottom, and I have no problem starting at the bottom if I could financially afford it. But I think that's kind of a field where either you're already successful at something else and you can get in and kind of skip over those positions, or you start in those positions when you're young, coming out of college, and you've got some support from your folks to help move you through. So I've been trying to, whether it be my last project or this project with PGH Museums, it's always been kind of like a twofold thing where I'm doing things for the community, and I never sacrifice the mission for my personal goals. But there's always a hope that either it could lead to a full-time job or somebody sees my work and hires me, and I can still do that on the side.
Well, I always encourage people to keep their head in the clouds,
Mm-hmm.
have creative daydreaming, have imagination, and shoot for the stars. However, and I always tell them, now here's the suck part of this. I always ask you to keep your feet on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Because people come up with me with all these wonderful ideas, and I encourage and support that. But then I ask them a question: what are you doing to put gasoline in your car?
Mm.
So I know I encourage people to explore and be like a balloon, but I also encourage them to be tethered to something also.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you're telling me that your current wage-paying job does. It keeps you tethered in order to float.
Yeah. It's a launching point. I only expected to be there a couple years. 6 years later, I'm still there, but yeah, it does provide those opportunities at least, and it also gives me I've started in the last couple years. I've started traveling, and it does give me the opportunity to travel. Next year, I'll have 4 weeks vacation, which is like incredible compared to what most places get. I mean, every other job I had before this, you had to like earn your vacation, and you never really got vacation time realistically.
Right. So once again, we always talk to people about temporary inconvenience, permanent improvement,
Mm-hmm.
and that wise mind choices aren't always easy ones. They can be hard, and there can be some pain attached to them too. But that's what you're telling me is that has to do a great deal with maturity. So how long do you think you've had this in jail, Brian? I think we'd be calling you an old head. So how long have you had this other point of view, this older type of point of view, a more mature type of point of view about situations?
So I don't feel like I am.
Well,
sure.
I disagree.
I don't know.
That's exactly what I'm hearing.
Maybe, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I feel like I'm all like a lot of like the things that most people would be doing my age, I don't do. Like, looking to buy a house or this or that. You know what I mean? I feel like I would like to. I'm glad that you think I'm mature, because that's kind of what I want people to think of me.
Well, it sounds to me like you're making mature decisions. You focus on something and you do what's necessary to achieve that goal. And simply because you're not following the template of a person your age, what the other template people are doing, does that make what you're doing wrong?
It doesn't, no, but I do beat myself up a lot about not following that template. I wish I had gone to school and gotten that degree in 4 years and gotten some job. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would have liked to have gone that route. I probably wouldn't have done as many things as I've done, but
Flowers don't compare themselves to other flowers; they bloom.
Mm-hmm.
So when we start comparing ourselves to others, we're on some type of a spectrum between bitterness and vanity.
Mm-hmm.
So we always want to be able to step back, and the Stoics call that studied indifference, to be able to step back and look at a situation rather than from it. And in the 12-step world, we have a saying that you can't read the label when you're inside the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that goes for anxiety, depression, relationships, or anything in life, the ability to step back. So who do you bounce your ideas off of? Who's the person that is the recipient of Brian's, all his thoughts? You have somebody like that in your life?
Many people. I kind of say everything that I'm doing to everyone, or like at least like a good, yeah. Sword goes. I tell him like everything I do, like, and he's just one of many. I just, and then there's certain people I talk to about certain things, as well. Like I have a really good financial advisor, who spends like way more time than he should, helping me with things. And I told him one day about some issue, and he like scheduled a meeting to straighten me out, type of deal. I have another friend who's like really into meditation, and he's always like hassling me about meditation. So I might talk to him about things. It just depends. I mean, but as far as like my everyday life, like every time I do something, it's like I share it to everybody. I just
okay. Well, generally, when I deal with people
I'd
that
share
have...
it to you if you were on Facebook, by the way. But that's usually where I'm at. I'm always on the messenger. However, I'm not on the app. I got rid of the app. I no longer scroll.
Good for you.
Yeah. Deleted the app.
Excellent. So generally when people have trouble, and it doesn't sound like you have many problems making commitments and living up to them, but generally I suggest to people, if you really want to get something done and we commit to ourselves, we generally wait until the pressure's on. However, what I usually ask them to do is commit to someone that they trust, they respect, and most importantly, they don't want to disappoint.
Well, that's the thing, is anybody who I care about, I end up getting anxiety about disappointing. So that's why, it's one of the reasons why I am good at getting done with all of my commitments, because I don't want to, disappoint somebody who I've given my word to. So, but then I am a last minute person. I think that has more to do with executive functioning issues, and there's not like any gratification in doing things early. You know what I mean? It's when push comes to shove, that's when I end up getting things done. And it doesn't matter what I try to do. It just, but once I tell someone I do something, I don't want to
Well, if there's anything that people can take away from our talk today, Brian, it's about passion, and I think it's about resiliency, and yes, determination. So could you share with our listeners out there how to get in contact or to make themselves aware of Pittsburgh museums?
Yeah, it's pghmuseums.org, and it's at PGH Museums on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's the same, at PGH Museums. And if you have a specific question or concern about PGH Museums, you can email me. It's just Brian, Brian, at pghmuseums.org. Or if you have an event, we take events from any local artist. You can just be, a painter as a hobby, and you decide to put on an art show at a coffee house. You can send us a press release, and we'll post that information on our calendar. It doesn't matter who or what. And to do that, you just go to explore@pghmuseums.org is the email address to do that.
Well, we'll make sure that all these links are made available to all of our listeners. And Brian, as always, it's wonderful to catch up with you, and you're quite a delightful fellow. And as always, at the end of every podcast, we offer a free prescription, fruits, nuts, and vegetables, and unplug your television and perhaps take up fishing. And for a truly mindful experience, we suggest that you fish without bait. Forgive yourself and forgive another. Do a kindness for yourself and do a kindness for another. Until all are free, none are free. Namaste, my friends.
Please check out our website at fishingwithoutbait.com, where you can listen to the show, comment on our discussions, and find out where you can subscribe to our podcast. If you're interested in flying the colors of Fishing Without Bait, click the shop icon on our website. We have clothing, mugs, cell phone cases, and so much more. Show the world that you fish without bait. This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.